Good morning everybody and welcome to today's live Q&A focusing on accommodation and clubs and societies at AIT. Today we are going to be joined by Aine Daly, and Aine is the current Students' Union President, and she's going to be on hand to answer all questions in relation to the accommodations process. So for example, how to apply for accommodation and what first years need to expect. Just before we get into, I suppose, the accommodation piece today in this live Q&A, just want to highlight as well that we've got a lot of live Q&As happening across Pobble this week. So we've got 5 different departmental live Q&As taking place. So they're all taking place between 2 and 4 p.m. every day. So if you go across to ait.ie/virtual events, it's a great opportunity to log on and ask questions to the head of the department, some lectures, and also we have Nori O'Callaghan, our admissions officer, who has been on hand all week, last week and this week, to answer all questions in relation to points, entry requirements, and so much more. So with that in mind as well, just to highlight that we've also launched our new podcast series, AIT Decoded. It's a great opportunity to log on and listen to some of our students and our staff talk about courses. So that's also live on Spotify, so that's called AIT Decoded. And also on our CEO Hub, we've launched our new student ambassador blogs. So it's a great chance to again read the authentic student voice and try and listen to the students that are currently on those courses, talking about their experiences from modules to work experiences and also life outside the lecture hall as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to invite Aine onto this morning's live Q&A. So if you can bear with me a moment. We're waiting for Aine to come through here. Just also want to highlight that again, this is a great forum to ask some questions. So here we are. Good morning, Aine. How are you?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good, thanks. And yourself?
Good. Keeping busy.
Good. So Aine, thanks so much for coming on this morning. We've had this is our 4th live Q&A on Instagram. We've had a lot of questions come through all of the other live Q&As in relation to accommodation in particular, but also some questions in relation to clubs and societies as well. So it's a great opportunity for students that have been writing in all weekend. They've been sending through some messages on Instagram in particular in relation to the accommodation piece. So thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
No bother. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So I suppose to get started, Aine, can you give us a little bit of, I suppose, an introduction into accommodation for students at AIT? I know there's lots of accommodation available, and we pride ourselves, I suppose, in the Midlands that we don't have those huge accommodation prices that maybe the bigger cities around would have. So can you give us a little bit of an introduction into into accommodation at AIT?
Yeah, so we have a lot of accommodation literally in walking distance from the college. So we have Glenelg, Creoga, Heatherview, Buckley's, and then we also have house shares and digs accommodation. So the typical price ranges from about 80 to 120 a week, and our accommodation is very, very safe. So I've been a student here I've been here for 6 going on 7 years now, and I've never had an issue. But no, the accommodation, if you have any questions at all, just get in touch with the Students' Union and look at our page as well, AITSU, for up-to-date accommodation listing.
Okay, excellent. So you mentioned there that you were a student in AIT for, what, 4 years, and now you're working...
4 years.
Excellent. And how was your time being in AIT? Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, it's been great. Sure, I'm nearly here 7 years, so I obviously like the place, but no, it's been amazing. I was here 4 years studying social care, and then I ran for the union. So I was Vice President for Welfare and Accommodation, and I'm going into my 2nd term now as President. So
brilliant.
Yeah, it's great.
You're doing a good job, so.
Let's hope so.
And when you were involved, when you were a student here for the 4 years, where did you live in terms of accommodation?
Okay, so I lived in probably the area a lot of people aren't too aware of, is Willow Park. So I lived in Willow Park with my friends, and I had a great experience there. To this day, I still have a great relationship with my landlord who lived there, and we still drop off Christmas cards to each other, even though we don't live there anymore. So it's great. There's a lot, it's very family orientated, community kind of spirit in Athlone. So you're not just renting a room, you're actually getting to know the landlord and making friends along the way as well. So it's great.
Yeah, okay. And if you're a first year student coming into college now and you're not familiar with Athlone, you don't know anything about it, but there's a course that you've included on the CEO form from AIT. What would be the first steps a student might take in relation to researching accommodation, especially during these times now that they can't actually get into a car and drive up to Athlone to have a look around?
I know. Well, the best thing I can recommend is to go onto the AIT SU website and have a look at our accommodation there. Every accommodation that we register, we vouch, we check the properties, we've a good relationship with all the landlords. So the first step I would say is get in contact with ourselves, and we'll help you as much as we can along the way.
Yeah, and you guys have a dedicated accommodations. One of the students' union reps are an accommodation officer as well.
Yeah, so our welfare and equality officer, their portfolio would include accommodation. So if you have any questions at all, or even about where to go, finding housemates or anything like that, just get in contact with yourselves, and we'll help you as much as we can.
Great, great. And also then in terms of, I suppose, accommodation, on you, some of the other questions that were coming through over the weekend, in relation to Athlone and in relation to accommodation at Athlone, can you talk about, I suppose, the safety element as well? I suppose it is, I suppose, a daunting experience for a parent maybe sending their son or daughter away to college for the first time, and they're worried about maybe the security or safety. Can you maybe, I suppose, reassure parents and students about the, I suppose, the security that surrounds the accommodation in Athlone as well?
Yeah, so all our student apartment blocks would have security and gated accommodation. Glenallen is usually one that's very highly recommended by students. So typically first years, they all go together there. When you come to Heatherview, parents tend to love it because there's a curfew, it's gated, and it's very, very secure. But all the accommodation that we recommend is very, very safe, and I haven't heard any issues for the time I've been in Athlone.
Yeah, absolutely. And similar to myself, I'm working at Athlone quite a long time now. So again, it's very, very safe for any parents watching or any students watching. There is that really reassuring element that it is a very safe place to live. Just to highlight, I suppose, as well, in terms of the accommodation piece, where exactly is the accommodation, apartments, houses, where is it located in relation to the college?
Literally walking distance, just across the road. You don't have to go too far to find our accommodation. Everything's very central and very built around the college. So it's majority all student accommodation when you come to this side of the town. So yeah, everything's about 2 minutes walking away.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And you mentioned at the start there, the price range looking between €80 to €120. That varies between, I suppose, between accommodation in apartments, accommodation in houses, accommodation in digs, shared accommodation. I suppose, can you give us a little bit of indication of where that price range between 80 to 120 kind of varies for different accommodation providers?
Yeah, so you could share a room with someone, and it could start up at €65 a week. And then if you'd like your own room in a house, it can start at 80. And then when you come to apartments, it is semesterized, so you will have to pay the semester up front. But for any students who might be getting nervous now, said I wouldn't have that kind of money together, come to us. We have house shares, we have digs accommodation, which is affordable accommodation for students when they come to Athlone.
Okay, so I think the important message from this piece is to contact the Students' Union, to get in touch with you guys. I know you're very open, very receptive of any type of questions coming through. So anything, any queries that you have this morning in relation to accommodation, again, like we've done with the previous Q&As, if you want to send us a direct message, we can get in touch with Anya through your query as well. So that's an important message. Moving on, Anya, to some of the questions that we got throughout the weekend. I said we've been inundated with messages, but just to start with one from Rachel. Rachel is looking to come to Athlone, hopefully in the next number of months to start. Where would be the best place? I know you've mentioned already the likes of Glenallen. Would you recommend Glenallen as a good place for first year students to live? Yeah,
typically the first years I've met, they like Glenallen because you get placed with other first years in the accommodation, and it's a massive student block. So when they come there, they usually typically fall in love with accommodation. But Creoga is also loved, and Heatherview. So any of our apartment blocks that we register, I definitely recommend to first years.
Okay, okay. Moving on, Orla Smith is running a question again. We've highlighted at the start here, just in relation to security. So Orla, if you've missed that piece at the start, you can go back. But Anya has already mentioned, I suppose, that all apartments in particular have a very, very strong security network set up, and they're very secure and very safe place to live. And I think Athlone in general is a very, very safe place to go to college. There's never really any issues, any problems, and it's it's a very community-based atmosphere there. So and very close relationship with the local Gardaí that help patrol and do a lot of work there as well, don't they?
Yeah, we'd have a great relationship now with Ronan, who's our liaison guard. He pops into us all the time. He's an absolutely lovely guy and very approachable. So he's always on hand to help students for any questions or anything they have. So
yeah, brilliant,
great.
Excellent. In terms then, moving on to some of the other questions that we had coming in relation to what date do students find out what room they've been given as a first-year student?
Okay, so in Athlone we don't own any of our accommodation, but we have a great relationship built up with all the private developers around us. So you won't be allocated a room. You'll have to approach the apartment block and actually book a room yourself for the year. So if you have any questions at all around that process, just get in contact with ourselves and we can assist you as much as we can.
Yeah, and I think that's an important piece as well. We don't have on-campus accommodation in Athlone IT. So for anyone, I suppose, watching that thinks that they're going to live on campus, all the accommodation, as Aine previously mentioned, is located approximately like a 3 to 5 minute walk away from the campus. It's all very close-knit. Like it is practically, you know, at max a 5 minute walk. So it's very, very close by. But the accommodation isn't on campus, and it's not owned by the college. So it's all separate accommodation providers. But as Aine previously mentioned, there's a very good working relationship there between the Students' Union and the accommodation providers for students as well. So that is an important piece, that all accommodation is off campus, but very, very closely located as well. Saoirse has asked, where can she find 1 or 2 bedroom houses for students?
So to find house shares or digs accommodation, just go to the AITSU website. We'll be uploading the list the second week in July. So I wouldn't worry too much about if there's going to be houses or dig shares available. The list won't be going up until July, so there's loads of time yet. Yeah,
and excellent. And I suppose that there's always, I suppose, a panic around accommodation. It's a national sort of worry all the time for students that are progressing into third level. There's lots of accommodation available in Athlone. It's one of those colleges that doesn't have that huge accommodation shortage that somewhere else might have. But we tend to have a lot of accommodation available as well. So don't panic or don't worry if you haven't got accommodation, and that's an important area as well. Just in relation to another question coming through here, will there be places left for accommodation if I don't get my first choice to go to AIT?
From my own experience, the last 2 years in the union, there typically is accommodation left come September. So I wouldn't worry too much. We have digs, we have house shares, and there's usually rooms left in the apartments as well. So just get in contact with ourselves if you have any questions at all, and we'll help you.
Okay. Another question has come through. How much will accommodation for 6 months cost for an Erasmus student?
Okay, so it depends on the accommodation you want to get. So with the apartments, it could start at 1,700 for the semester. But when you come to houses, then it's done by weekly or monthly payments, and same with digs. So any of those questions, just reach out and ask us, and we'll help you as much as we can.
Okay. In terms then of shared accommodation, Laura wants to know how much would shared accommodation be approximately in AIT?
It depends. It depends if it's an apartment share. A room share would start off around 65 a week. Apartment share could start at 90 a week. So it's all variable, really. It's all variable on the types of accommodation you actually want to get when you come to Athlone.
Okay. Daryl wants to know, how can he find someone to live with? Very open question.
Yeah. Well, with the house shares, they're typically leased by room. So they're already filled by students. But when you come to, say, like Glenowne, they place students together in the apartments of the same sex and same year as well. So I wouldn't be worrying too much about finding housemates. It's usually kind of, we'll assist you as much as we can, but typically the providers do that themselves.
Yeah, great. And then in terms of digs, what is digs and how do you apply for digs?
Digs as accommodation, I think, is very underrated. It's actually a very nice accommodation. I had friends who lived in digs in fourth year. So you live in someone's home, you're renting a room. So all your bills and your meals are included. So you get your breakfast, you get your dinner. parents typically love it as well, because when they're sending their kids away, they're going to be fed, they're going to be warm, and they're going to be watered. So it really just depends on what students want. But digs, I would highly recommend.
Yeah, okay. So to recap, I suppose, on that 15-minute conversation around accommodation, I suppose that the key message from Aine here in the Students' Union is to reach out if you have any questions, not to panic, don't worry. There's lots of accommodation. The accommodation rates are between 80 to 120 euros, approximately, depending on the accommodation you go for and choose. Security is of a very high level in terms of it's a very secure, safe place to live. And hopefully, with restrictions, please God, they are lifted over the summer months. We will have an opportunity to maybe for parents and their sons or daughters to come down and please God be able to look around the accommodation. It would definitely be a welcome message that if that was the case. And also the accommodation is located between 3 to 5 minutes away from the college, and you have the opportunity to go for digs, to go for apartments or houses as well. So huge opportunities there to and a wide range of accommodation. But the key message from this piece is to reach out to Aine or the other guys in the Students' Union that will give you a lot of support in relation to accommodation as well. Moving on to clubs and societies. I know that you guys have put a lot of work into clubs and societies over the last number of years in particular. Can you give us an introduction into clubs and societies in AIT, and maybe just, I suppose, highlight the importance of clubs and societies when a first year moves into college in the first place?
Okay, so when it comes to the student experience, it's more than just learning in the classroom. It's just activities you get involved with as well. So clubs and societies are so important to student life. We've over 70 active clubs and societies on campus, ranging from Gaelic to rugby to running to mental health, drama society, pool society. There's loads of options for students to take part in. But I couldn't emphasize enough how important it is to get involved. My own story, when I started here in first year, I didn't know anyone. I didn't know a soul in the entire college. I was so nervous and so shy. I went to the Clubs and Societies Day. I signed up to the Mental Health Society, and then the rest is history. I've ended up in the union through my involvement. So I encourage everyone to get involved, at least sign up to 1 or 2 clubs or societies and just have a really good time.
Brilliant, brilliant. You mentioned a few clubs and societies there. In terms then of a student that comes to college and, for example, that club or society is not there, does the college support them in terms of setting up their own club or society to get going?
Yeah, so that's the fun. You can have really good fun with it. So if there isn't a club or society there, you can set up your own. I'm dying for a student to set up the Harry Potter Society so I can get involved, but hopefully this will be the year.
Brilliant, brilliant. And you mentioned, I suppose, during that piece as well about the whole aspect of getting involved in something outside of the classroom as well. And, it does help you integrate into a new setting, a new surrounding. In terms of that piece of integration outside of the classroom, it is a very important piece for clubs and societies. How does a student go about registering for a club or society or getting involved in one?
So typically the first week when first years start, we hold a Clubs and Societies Day where all the different clubs and societies come together, and they'll have their sign-up sheets and you can ask them questions, see what's involved with the societies or the club. And it's a great day. It started my life basically in AIT, and I just can't wait for it this year. It's going to be really good fun.
Great. And can you maybe give us an indication of some of the new clubs and societies that have come on board over the last maybe year or so? Some club societies that are outside maybe the sporting element to in more of maybe the likes of drama, and you mentioned the likes of mental health. Anything else that's happening in club societies?
We'd have the Music Society. We'd also have a Dance Society, a Yoga Society, a Medieval Society where you get to dress up and dress up swords. But there's loads of different options you can get involved with. There's pool as well. There's over 70 active societies and clubs. So if there isn't something there to interest you, you can set up your own.
And you guys have taken on a clubs and societies officer as well last year?
Yeah, we took on a societies officer last year with societies, and we saw massive growth with students and a lot of engagement. We were meant to have a societies awards, but because of the COVID, it got cancelled this year. But we're hoping now in September we can host that for the students and celebrate their achievements.
Okay, brilliant. Aine, thanks a million for coming on this morning to join us. We really appreciate it. And just like us to reiterate where we had the bulk of questions come in our accommodation, send us a direct message after this live Q&A, and what we can do is we can forward that on to Aine or put you in touch with Aine and her team in the Students' Union. So Aine, thanks a million. We really appreciate it.
No bother. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.